To go, colleagues. Welcome back to another edition of our General Management and Leadership 101 conversation show. My colleagues, George and Devesh, are here. Our guest will be joining us very soon. We thought we should start and just introduce the topic of today. Devesh, I see we have a very interesting South African here joining us today uh, to talk about their journey and what they are all about. I think this one I'm gonna leave it to you, and when the guests come here, you lead the conversation together with George. But I'm very very excited that we have this South African entrepreneur, medical practitioner, joining us. Over to you, Devesh, to greet our viewers and introduce the topic, and of course, our colleague George. Over to you.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome to our viewers and listeners out there. And as Sam had outlined, today's show, we're looking at sharing knowledge and best practice in industry, the opportunities and some of the challenges. We're going to focus today on a bit of a mix. The guest is in the aesthetics medical space. He's a medical doctor, but he's also involved and a leader in the aerospace sector. And what I would like our viewers to at least get from the conversation that we're hoping to have with our guest once he joins in is that of innovative spirit. He's never held back. He's been comfortable. He's been very successful in the aesthetics medical space, but he felt that he could do more. He was interested in other areas of industry, and innovative spirit is something which I would say is a quality that a good leader should actually have in this day and age, especially in the global economy, which seems to be getting smaller and smaller. The opportunities for business is not isolated in our local environments anymore. It's a global space that we play in. Sector obviously has faced numerous challenges. It has brought both opportunities as well. So just before we talk a bit more about our guest, I just want to give George a chance also to just introduce himself.
All right, thank you very much, Devesh. It is an absolute honor, I think, for us today to have someone as versatile. I think I used the word that he's a serial entrepreneur, having done extremely well in the medical world. He's moved on into manufacturing. Apparently, they want to manufacture aeroplanes. He's in other areas which are quite innovative. And for my part, the key interest really today is a statement that says one can play in many fields and still succeed. And it takes the desire, the willpower to do that. And so I'd really want to hear how he's done that and inspire all our listeners who might find themselves in kind of difficult situation to say, how do I go forward? Well, here's somebody who's been innovative, who's played in many fields, and hopefully he will inspire you. I'm a coach, as some of you will know, and I like to work with people to get their full potential, to maximize their full potential, whether it's personal or teams, and to be the best version of themselves. And so Reza today is a good picture of that. And so, yeah,
George, just sorry for just to interrupt you. I see Dr. Reza is joined us on the LinkedIn platform. If he can just look into his inbox, we emailed him the link that will bring him straight into the studio rather than being on the public platform one. I hope he hears us. I made a note as well. So yeah, sorry, George. Devesh can just text him to check his inbox, and also
That's okay.
his colleague Nasrin. We have sent the studio link to him as well, so that he can come and join us here. But it's good that he's listening to us on the public platform.
Yes, also
The beauty of technology is that you do decide whether you want to listen on the public platform or you want to come into our virtual studio. But for today, we want Dr. Reza Mia to be in the studio.
To be in the studio, not to listen to us.
Yeah.
I did send him a link as or dropped him a message as well. If you can just go through the link in his email, and then join us into the studio. Yeah. But while he's sorting himself out.
Sorry, George, for interrupting you. I just
George, you were saying?
I saw him.
No, I was really busy celebrating innovation, really, and that what we need, not just as South Africa, but as Africa, what we need right now is innovative players who will create even products that we haven't even thought of. But these are the people who are not only going to create employment, but are going to create wealth for this continent. And so I'm really proud that Dr. Reza is from Africa, and is a perfect example that we can use for the rest of the world to see that we have innovation here. We've got a lot of people who are innovative. Let's pick that up and develop Africa to where it should be.
And he is from Africa, and he is in Africa. So sometimes we do provide the best to the rest of the world, and we then get to buy the service or get them later back, which is good. But we also cited that he is in the country, he is in the continent, and so we're not claiming him by birth. See, Devesh, I mean, sometimes you get citizenship by birth, and sometimes you get citizenship by residence.
But
the world is open. We're not criticizing. I'm just saying that's.
What I also just wanted to share is Dr. Reza still just having some technical challenges. Just trying to help him get onto our platform. He is communicating with me on the WhatsApp. But while he's busy also trying to get on, just to tell the viewers as well a little bit more, we didn't necessarily do the introduction properly due to our technical challenges. Dr. Reza Mia is our guest. He's the founder and chairman of Pegasus Universal Aerospace, a South African-born aerospace company. He's well known as well for being broadly diversified in his expertise in not only medical aesthetics, which he is still very actively involved in, but also in art, science, and also now in aeroplanes. So once he can get on, I will give him the chance so that we can have him tell us more about it himself. But like as well what you were saying, Sam, innovation in South Africa, ideas in South Africa, if we talk aerospace sector, and even in the days of apartheid, which it's unfortunate that I have to refer to those days, but South Africa was leading in the world in the aerospace industry. We were isolated from the rest of the world, but through organizations such as Denel, we had created some very interesting, innovative, world-class technologies. And I feel sometimes as well that inspiration, that expertise which the country had, some of it we lost through a lot of the activities that have been happening in our environment. But some of it as well is influenced by other leadership or the lack of leadership that we are also facing in our country, where certain decisions we're taking, it kind of forces out the innovation and expertise out of our country. I mean, it really is a big challenge. And I think one of the things we've been trying to aspire towards in this show, and not necessarily at this show alone, but COMETSA's shows, is to try and share that knowledge with viewers and listeners. But I see our guest has got onto the platform. So let's give him a bit to catch his breath. Then we can continue with our conversation.
Welcome, Dr. Reza.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I think I had more than one LinkedIn profile, so it was putting me on as a public viewer.
All right.
Yeah, but thanks for alerting us. I saw your message from the public platform that you are here, and we should welcome you. We are happy that you managed to join.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
This is a very
Yes.
nice to be here.
Welcome again, Dr. Reza. It is really an honor to be talking to you. And while we were waiting for you, you might have caught a little bit. We took the opportunity to at least start building you up in terms of the expertise and leadership that we do see that you possess, so that the viewers and listeners out there, and future viewers and listeners, because our shows get institutionalized into the cloud, so it lives on forever. Something that you specialize in. You try to help people feel younger, in particular, about themselves. I know my introduction that I even did before didn't really do justice, but I'm just eager to start getting into the conversation with you and share with the viewers and listeners the innovative that a leader such as yourself has traveled thus far. You first have valued education, and it has crafted you with some of the tools which helps you grow. Can you take us through your academic journey? Even though it's a never-ending process, I know you want to always learn new skills and techniques and knowledge acquisition. Let's talk about the importance of constant learning and the various channels of learning that you have found significant.
So definitely, I think that one half of everything that we do, especially with innovation, is the learning and the studying and understanding what it is that you're looking at and that you're working with. The other half is, of course, creativity, but we'll come to that. So as far as the studying is concerned, I do think that before you're able to address an issue or problem or an area, and you're able to make suggestions and make new things and innovate, you have to first of all understand completely the area that you're working in. So you need to be able to fully understand everything that's been done before. You need to comprehend all of the different avenues that you're able to go down and that you can explore. And so definitely we need to be studying and learning and finding out everything that we can, not just in the area that we're working in, but in related areas, in completely unrelated areas, because we find that we find solutions to existing problems by looking in seemingly unrelated areas and learning from people who have solved other challenges in different ways. And it's quite surprising how you're able to apply different elements or aspects to various fields. So I studied medicine at Wits University. I finished in 2006 and did my comm service and internship. And then I did my MBA from the University of Liverpool. I worked on my dissertation focused on property valuation and the different techniques and seeing which ones were the most accurate. After that, I did a finance master's from the London School of Business and Finance. It was investment banking and capital markets. And by then I was already working on the Pegasus project, which is, we'll come to that just now. But yeah, I then did my dissertation on the project as a whole. So looking at the financial modeling and market research and technical feasibility behind a project such as that. So looking at an aviation OEM or original equipment manufacturer. And since then, I've been studying and working in smaller courses, obviously in aesthetics, but also regenerative medicine, stem cells, SolidWorks, engineering, reading up on all of the legal aspects. So I read up, finance, law, spiritual books, obviously investments. I just try to broaden my horizons and to understand exactly as much as I can about everything. And this does help us to implement and to almost be more creative, because we're not seeking information because we have the information. So from there, we're able to use what we can and to either the strings from different directions.
And I think also the journey of discovery, the joy in it is, if you find some connection between the unrelated, you might be reading spirituality, as you mentioned, but you find some linkages to the other areas of expertise, the other areas of interest that you are involved in. It's something as well, I think viewers, listeners out there should really grasp, that you should never limit yourself into one area, and always be interested in looking at what's the other possibilities out there, because you never know. I mean, one might say yourself, you weren't really satisfied with being a doctor. Even though you're successful, you're still looking for that sweet spot of people find happiness in the things they do, and it's always good if you're doing the thing you're happy with and you get paid for it. So your journey of discovery is still ongoing. But of course, you are still a practicing a medical practitioner. You are definitely a diverse professional, firstly. But can you take us through the medical side of your profession? What is it you do, and where you are a leader in that regard, in that part of your life? Can you just share that as well with our viewers and listeners?
So on the medical side, I think I've been working in aesthetic medicine since the year 2011. So I didn't go straight into it after finishing my internship in community service. I worked with my dad in property. I worked at his office, and we did some other, business work. For example, importing Dr. Robert Ray's skincare products and his book, and working on a show with him. So it was quite an exciting time. But through that, one of the creams that he was importing had they called it a botulinum toxin-like effect. And funny enough, it did actually have an effect on skin, where the skin was thin. It could absorb and do something to the muscle, but it wasn't anywhere close, of course, to injectable toxins. And so people started asking me, they're saying, you are a doctor, why don't you just do the course and do the toxins for us? Because of course, this is not something that they teach in med school. It's too new for that. And we started doing the courses just to satisfy those curious people. But they kept coming back and bringing their mums and daughters and sisters and friends and brothers and husbands. And the part-time medical side of it became the full-time job. And so it just kind of, I'd like to feel like I was guided somewhat. I didn't think about doing it, but turned out I was good at doing it. And so people kept coming back. And it's basically things like dermal fillers, botulinum toxin, platelet-rich plasma, hair transplants and hair fillers, and it kind of grows itself. I liked it because it was a new field. There was an opportunity for us to, again, innovate, discover, research, find ways that we could make the world better by helping people. So not just to say that somebody who's had an injury needs to work on their aesthetic appearance. If you had to look at the psychological aspects of aesthetics and beauty and the way people look at you and understand you, looks have a very deep-seated psychological place in the world. And if you had to even look at job performance, people who are deemed to be attractive earn much more than people who are not seen as attractive. Just to word it correctly, it's almost the value of a master's degree. So if you have a master's and you are deemed to be attractive, you will earn as much as somebody with 2 masters. And so it's never something that you can, just push aside and say it doesn't matter, because it always will. As long as you are relying on other human beings for feedback or for sales or for earnings, you will be influenced by the way that you look.
Yeah, I mean, I will agree with you. There's a social aspect to that, but in the real world, and for those who have opportunities, they have the choice of how they want to be perceived by the world. And until the world can change, which is a long wait, I would say, in my opinion, to aspire towards different views of what is aesthetic and what isn't, I can understand where you put into that space. Just as well in terms
Can
of...
I just jump in a little
Go
bit
ahead,
on
go
that?
ahead, George.
Just
Go ahead,
jump a
George.
little bit and confirm with you, Dr. Reza, that from a self-confidence point of view and self-worth point of view, the way you look plays a part. Is that what you're saying?
So more than that. So number one is that you will feel more confident in yourself. So if you, let's take something like underarm sweating. There are some people who stand up to give a speech. They're a little bit anxious about that. And what will happen to them is they start to sweat into their sleeves. And when they feel that wetness, they immediately become anxious and become focused on that. And so they start to think more about this than what they're saying. And again, it hits them and they get anxiety, and it's a self-fulfilling cycle. And so doing things like botulinum toxin or the mirror dry machine can stop that sweating, so that when they stand up, they can focus on what they're talking about. So that's just one area, an example. But anything that takes away from your ability to stand up and deliver your best to your target audience, whether you are doing a presentation in boardroom or on TV, it will take away from what you're saying, because you're too distracted by whatever it is that you're worried about. And so dealing with that gives you the confidence to just go out and do your best. But it's not even just about how you feel. It's about the people that are looking at you, because there is universal acceptance of certain things, like a healthy skin. These are things that people will, anywhere in the world, will look at and they'll value, and they will pay more attention to what you're saying. They'll believe more what you're saying. And the research has actually shown that people will accept what you're saying as true and believe more of what you're saying based on the way that you look. So it's not just about how you feel, but it's about how people actually perceive you. And I often, I gave a speech recently when I did a talk at Old Mutual, and I said to them, it used to be a very unfair world, because people who looked better were able to get an advantage over everybody else simply because of the way they looked. It didn't mean that they were actually smarter. It didn't mean that they had more skill. But on equal levels, everything else, if you were the same but you looked better, you had an unfair advantage. And so the reason I said it used to be an unfair world is because now there's something we can do about it. Now we can actually level the playing field and make sure that you also get those advantages. So that's the real truth.
And what do you say? What do you say to the fact that, true as it is, unfortunately, only certain categories of people can afford it?
You know what it is? It's not that this is unusually expensive. I know sometimes people think of aesthetics as a very expensive or out of reach type of treatment, but an average aesthetic treatment doesn't cost more than an average trip to the shop to buy some good creams. So it's not to say that you need to spend an arm and a leg. I mean, someone will go and buy a suit that costs 10 times what you would spend on an aesthetic treatment to try and get that same. I mean, that's the reason we dress up. We wear nice suits, we wear jewelry, it's all just to increase the appearance that we're putting forward. But you can wear anything. You can wear a cheap t-shirt, but if your face looks nice, people think, oh, what a nice t-shirt, we should get a t-shirt. But because that's the way the brains work.
Yeah. Wow.
Just also to add to what you were speaking about, Sam, what I also understand from what Dr. Mia them work on is non-invasive procedures and ways of actually building the level of confidence through whatever means the customers would be looking at. So that in itself is also an innovative way of trying to bring the costs normally associated with invasive procedures of altering one's appearance. And when we say appearance, like you also mentioned, Dr. Mia, the underarm sweating, that's a holistic appearance thing. It's not necessarily just your face, your traditional nose job, and enhancing your lips and that kind of thing. It's a whole person approach that you're looking at. So also in terms of cost reduction, making things more affordable, more accessible to all, there is an innovation aspect which you have been targeting, and I think that's one of the reasons why you sort of swayed towards aesthetic medicines or medical approaches as opposed to doing something like plastic surgery, which is different.
So I think it's one, the cost, and two, the safety aspect. It's far safer than undergoing surgery. And if we can find ways to delay or remove the need for certain surgeries, then we do believe that we are saving people the hassle later on of having to undergo those procedures. But the thing is, it's also led us down through the platelet-rich plasma route, which is where we use patients' own blood. It's led us down the pathway to the regenerative medical field, which I see as the next frontier, where we use patients' own platelets or donor platelets, where we use stem cells from umbilical cords, where there's no danger to anyone who's doing the donation, but we're able to use these and extract what we need from them and use those cells and direct them to form various tissues. And in time to come, we would like to be able to even use 3D printing techniques with these cells to produce organs. So that's kind of like the long-term goal that I have on that side, and why I've gone the route of the regenerative medical aspects. I've actually just been accepted to the American Board of Regenerative Medicine. And so that covers all of that field. It's just now to get up and running with a research project that we're doing, specifically focusing on using stem cells and platelets to treat COVID-19 and the acute respiratory distress that comes with it.
And thank you, Dr. Reza. Of course, you mentioned technology and what a huge impact it's been playing in your core business, if I can put it that way. But one of the more exciting things for me is your Pegasus Universal Aerospace, a South African-born company which has been very innovative in terms of its initial product design, your vertical takeoff and landing passenger plane, which you are working on. And I see also it's got a lot of international interests in your project. Unfortunately, you haven't gotten the South African interests that I think you would like to have, but we can talk about that as well. But let's talk about your aerospace role and how the two work together. How does a doctor get into designing and building planes?
So I know it seems like it's a disjointed field, but there's a lot of overlap and a lot of commonality and a lot of common thinking. So what happened is we had an idea. I thought, it might be nice to explore various business fields. And so, as I mentioned before with the Dr. Reza creams, but what I didn't speak about was prior to that, with a friend of mine from med school, we were marketing a herbal energy drink, which was a caffeine-free herbal energy drink called Legend. And it was also something that we were kind of doing part-time while we were working, but what I found with the creams is that we had to sell almost 100 cans to make the same return that we were making by selling a single cream. And so it kind of made me focus my effort onto the creams. But from there, I thought, let's draw a line and see where this ends. And it ended with property, ships, and airplanes. Because you had to sell one airplane, you could make the same return of 5 million cans of the drink. So that means 5 million customers had to be convinced to buy one versus the single plane buyer. I found ships to be a little bit boring, and property is something it's always going to be there, but it always will fluctuate in value based on the era that it's in and what else is happening around it. Whereas a plane can move, you can fly it wherever you want.
I think we're losing connection there with Dr. Reza. Can you still hear him?
Holiday was getting on and off the plane. Let's check and see what's happening. Can you?
Yeah, I think your connection is cutting. I don't know whether it has to do with your internet, that site. Yeah, while it's still
It
connecting.
looks like it's reconnecting. Hopefully we get a connection.
Yeah, yeah. Quite very interesting mix of.
Yeah, one of the things he mentioned, which.
Yes, Devesh.
Of areas of focus. I say it's a very interesting mix of areas of focus. And what I was, George, you muted?
I'm back. Can you hear me? Sorry.
George, you were saying something, you were muted.
Oh, I see. Doc is back now. So let's
what I was saying is there's a very...
Okay. No, I wanted actually.
But what I was saying is a very interesting area of mix.
Yeah, Devesh, your line is also cutting you. Maybe George should proceed.
Playing up. Yeah. Really, what I was saying is that there is sometimes relatedness in unrelatedness. And so you can only find out by going out there and doing something. And it's action in one's life that leads you up various paths. And so the key word, if you're hearing what he is saying in his message, is the doing, the going into property.
But also the innovation. I think one point he mentioned was that we've got to be innovative. And I think when you are innovative, there are no, when one is innovative, there are no boundaries. And I think I almost say that the product of innovation is opportunities for many people to plug in. Because if you have that ability to innovate, what do you do? Then you keep on innovating products and solutions. And then on top of that, if you are entrepreneurial, that means then you package this innovation into entities that other people can manage and then service the bigger world, which I thought this is what is coming out from Dr. Reza here. And it came out also when he was sharing with us on his journey educationally. And I was looking medicine, MBA, and then finance, masters. And then I realized that this, I mean, Dr. Reza, I will look at you as an entrepreneur. You just happen to be a doctor, medical doctor, but what comes out across, which is what, as we work out with a lot of incubators, and we're always having an outcry for people to want to go into entrepreneurship. And we don't want to make a mistake by looking for technical, functional areas where they are coming from. We first want to look at their makeup, which I'm seeing in you, and also in listening to your background, that you come from the family that was also very entrepreneurial. And then you studied and business, and you happen to be a medical doctor. But the entrepreneur in you keeps on coming out. And I think I'm fascinated by the idea of the aerospace. And I'm just imagining a South African-made aeroplane going all over the world. That to me, that really, I like the fact that medically you'll take care of me and everybody else. But the idea that an aeroplane made in South Africa taking off. And by the way, and sorry, I'm now talking as if I'm you, but I'll say, by the way, it doesn't matter who manufactures that aeroplane, in my view, as long as it's a South African designed aeroplane. Will you agree with me, or is that also an issue?
Definitely. No, I think that I like that summary. Basically, I would accept that I would be labeled as an entrepreneur who happens to also be a doctor and happen to also study. But that's true. You know, if I guess if I had studied law or engineering or anything else at university, I would have still,
Yeah.
done what I've done, which is to pursue various avenues and to keep on learning and studying. And I think that's something that I'd like to, I wish it could be contagious, and that everyone who spoke to or saw this type of thing and saw the progress would also then see the value in pursuing that type of thinking. And I do hope that I can set some kind of example for younger people who are in school or leaving school or studying, for them to see that if they'd like to be successful and to reach a certain place in their lives, all they have to do is just keep on trying and keep on pushing, and not to give up or allow anyone to put limitations on them or on their dreams or their ideas. And and that's why I think one of the things that keeps me going is that I feel that I need to make sure that I see these projects through to their completion, so that I do set a good example. Because if I do let it go and I let it disappear, then the example it sets is, well, that type of thinking doesn't work. So because it does take a lot of faith in the world and in yourself to chase projects that are big and difficult. Because there's many times where you're tired simply just by being tired, and you feel like, I've had enough, I need to sleep, I'm not doing this anymore, it's too difficult, these hurdles are too big. And if you don't have an idea or faith that you will get where you need to go, you probably will stop. You'll stop and you'll discard it, and you'll say, oh, I'll try something else in future. And that's, I think, what needs to be cultivated in younger people and in future entrepreneurs.
Now, I'm very impressed with that. So what I'm hearing is belief in yourself, faith in those things that you're doing, and you persist, and the outcome will be what you want it to be. Yeah, it's a good lesson for our listeners, definitely.
So,
One of
what are the kind of hurdles that you have to go through to make the aerospace idea become reality ultimately?
Sorry,
So,
just before you
sure.
get into the Sam's question, you got cut off where I think it was a very vital thing you were explaining in terms of the overlap between the medical aesthetics that you're involved in and the aerospace. And then perhaps you can also then talk to what Sam has asked you as well.
Yes, sorry, you're right. We didn't finish that answer. And okay, so I saw ships were boring, planes were good. I always loved aviation. The best part of the holiday was on the flight to and from where we were going. And so it was almost natural for me to start looking into aviation. And I just thought that if I was to build a plane in South Africa, it needed to be unique. It needed to be something that the world would look at and say, we can't get this anywhere else, so let's buy it from them. And so a general business jet would have been too common. It's too easy to get it in other countries. And so I brainstormed. I just looked at different types of airplanes that I thought would be unique, including things like supersonic business jets or that type of thing. And I just thought that the bigger time-saving capability and the biggest gap was in vertical takeoff and landing. And so then I looked until I found some engineers who were willing to do conceptual design studies and to de-risk the project from a technical point of view, while I did that, the de-risking from a financial and a market research point of view. And those are the three main areas that I've been focused on: is technical progress, financial modeling, and ongoing market research. And the further along we get in the project, the more attractive it becomes from all of those aspects. And in some cases, things like de-risking from different subsections, we did some internal work. And in other cases, we partnered with companies like Cal and Lens in the UK for the control systems and automation. And they're the ones that will basically provide the software and the hardware to make sure that the pilot doesn't have to do all of the work he's trying to fly. All he has to do is just choose where he wants the plane to go and which speed, and he doesn't need to exert mental effort on balancing the airplane. So that should all just be done by the software and the hardware. And that for me is how we de-risk on that portion. So there's different ways to get around the problems and challenges. But when it comes to designing new ideas, to innovating, to using the basic sciences like physics and chemistry, innovative problem solving, these are the things we do in aesthetics and in medicine all the time. The aesthetic side of it, if you look at the plane, you can see that it's a good looking plane. It's meant to be attractive. It's meant to be a sexy plane. You know, if you can land anywhere and be seen getting out of it, you want to be seen getting out of it. It can't be an ugly plane. And so there's many areas where we overlap.
It's a pity we. Sorry. It's a pity we couldn't have that model. I have seen the picture of the model for the plane, but our viewers, listeners can later on follow you and get a view of the videos that you do have in distribution to actually see how beautiful the plane actually does look inside as well as outside. Plane. Continue, Doctor.
Yeah, I would say on our website, that's pegasusua.com. You can find some of the pictures, or Instagram. I think it's Pegasus_UA. The UA is Universal Aerospace. So, I mean, and that tells you more about the future of the company. It wasn't meant to be a single airplane. There are other ideas and projects already in the pipeline for the future, to take the project forward in a bigger way. I like to think that once you plant a seed and it grows and you start to see the fruits coming to fruition.
So the core competency of the company will be what? The design or the engineering or the manufacturing, or is it all the three?
Initially, and now it was just design. And now we're starting to expand and look at how we can manufacture parts. We started to build pretty much. Okay, sorry, let me rewind a little bit. One of the things we thought about doing was to see how we could share the things that we learned with other young companies that are coming up in the different spaces. And so all of the things that we had to learn to take the project forward are things that we now offer as consultancy, as services to other companies, like building small-scale models, full-scale demonstrators, on providing engineering work and computational fluid dynamics, and just all of the things, financial modeling, all of these things that people will come up with an idea and have some basics. And it's good to be able to direct them whilst also putting resources towards Pegasus. So funding is one of the major hurdles that we were speaking about earlier, is the hurdle. So technical feasibility, market research, financial modeling, these are some of the hurdles, but we've managed to now de-risk that and find ways around it. So now we're looking towards the funding. What I've been doing so far is basically through my medical practice, putting what I earn towards that project. I like to joke it's the first plane in the world that would be powered by botulinum toxin, because that's what has been funding it. Second is we've done a couple of local share sales in a special company that we created, an unlisted public company called Pegasus UA Limited. And we've been using that money as well for development funding, but it hasn't been, large amounts of money. We do need to access bigger funding on a global scale. So far, we haven't been able to access that, as you say, through our South African government, but the UK government has given us £1 million as a matching grant. And that was quite exciting for us to have that kind of backing. But for us, we believe that as we progress, for example, we're building the 2-quarter scale models now, and we're building a full-scale hover demonstrator. And I do believe that when we show those airplanes doing what they are able to do, that will attract what we need as far as bigger funding to do manned flight models and to start doing the certification process so that we can then build to supply to customers.
Just 2 comments from us. This is fascinating. I think the Devesh, we'll definitely need to bring Dr. Reza back, because I know we're not going to be able to explore all the points. But two points that are coming out from what you've just said now, when it comes to entrepreneurship. A number of times we want to come up with ideas and wait until our ideas have matured and have proven to us that they are implementable. And sometimes that doesn't happen to be the case. So I hear you saying that you probably in your mind have a projected life cycle of your business, and you are already aware there are some activities already that actually are keeping you busy, and you are not shying away from telling the world that what is it that you are building. Am I right? Am I hearing you that that is the approach you are following? Say that there will be a number of milestones, and you are already having services that you are offering, although it's not the ultimate. But the ultimate is to build this sexy, good-looking aeroplane that could take off from Johannesburg or from anywhere in South Africa to the entire world. And once people see it, they'll say, we can't get it from anywhere else but South Africa. And they will come and they'll find you ready. It sounds very interesting, good model for people to start enterprises.
Definitely, and I think that it is one of those things that it's a larger project. So I knew from the beginning that it was going to be a long and difficult project. And I do think if I knew exactly how difficult, I might not have started. But, once you get going and you see the momentum and you see real things, and, we build a nose and we see this real thing in our face, and we think, wow, this is exciting. Let's take the next step. So just taking those steps starts to give you a better idea about what you need to do, and it motivates you to keep pushing the project forward. As long as you see, and I often say this to younger entrepreneurs and innovators as well, as long as all your information and research and data are pointing towards a successful outcome, then you should continue to push forward with the project. If you start to see things that tell you that it's not going to be worth your time or profitable or make an impact in the world, then it really isn't something that you should waste your time on. Once you've done enough to explore and to discover, and you've researched enough and experimented enough, you should be able to decide whether you need to be pursuing the project or not. Because it's one thing to never give up, but it's also something that people need to make sure that they're not just, what they call flogging a dead horse. That's something I borrow from Bits. That's where they taught us. You can't chase something that isn't going to bring you what you want it to bring. So when I look at Pegasus, I can see a very profitable venture where the airplane itself will make a big difference to the world. In many cases, just on the time saving for people who are traveling, on the medical rescue and search and rescue, that you can use it for flying at 4 times the speed and range of a helicopter. And also on the environmental factors, already because it will use a lot less fuel than a normal plane, you'll be a much more environmentally friendly airplane. But our goal in the future is to not need actual engines on the plane. So we've designed it in a way that when electrical power catches up to it, you'll be able to use batteries that you can swap out to power the plane and have a zero emission plane. So we're also working on an alternative power source, which is still confidential. I'll get more to that aspect as well in a few seconds. But these are the ways that I see this project impacting on the world. I know if you can fly around for free, or even negative emissions, and that's also something I can't tell you more about now, but I'll explain why. Something that we did with the Pegasus project, and what all the innovators need to pay attention to, is that you can't really publicly speak about your project or display any details about it until you have obtained your patent. And so we did that. We started with a provisional patent, which gives you secret security for about a year, secret protection. And then you have to apply for a full-on patent, which we did in South Africa, and under the international, the PTC or PCT Paris Convention. You get global protection again for another year while you decide. Yeah, exactly. While you decide where to get individual patents. And so we chose the traditional aviation manufacturing countries like the USA, the UK, Germany, France, and a couple of other countries in the EU. And so those patents have all been granted, and that gives us a good platform to work off and to work forward from.
So what
once
type
you've got
of
those, then you can
what
publicly
kind
talk about
what
it and
kind
share.
of partners will you need for this to become reality? Because it does look like it will need partners too and investors as well.
So, simple investors just giving us money, that would be nice. That would be lovely. But strategic investors are even better. The ones who would invest but also work with us in various aspects in different fields. So there should be a couple of announcements coming out soon from us about some new partnerships and new equity partners that we are in negotiations with right now, who can contribute towards specific elements of the airplane and elements of the project, as far as manufacturing, distribution, marketing, more detailed design into certain subcomponents of the airplane. And it's just for us to bring together all of the right components. It's another thing is for young entrepreneurs to make sure that they don't be, it's not a good idea to give away the bulk of your company. But it's also not a good idea to hold on selfishly to the point where you own 100% of a project that size instead of 20% of a project that size. So it's just important to keep in perspective and not to become too tightly cling too tightly to your project and to your invention, even though it is kind of like our child. We have to give it some freedom and to understand that it isn't it doesn't define you completely. It's a part of you. In time to come, you might sell it, you might do something with it, but there's other projects that will come and there's other ideas that will come from inside you.
So long term, do you see a publicly listed company?
Yes, I do. I do in the long term. I'd like to see us manufacturing, distributing, exporting, marketing. I would like to market this by landing it at the World Cup, at the final match, that the teams get out of the plane. This is I feel it's a plane that will sell itself once we start to show the world what it can do. You can imagine what it would look like.
The flight, the plane of choice for the Springboks, Bafana, and
yes, definitely.
Or SAA Express, for that matter. One of the gems that you've shared, Dr. Reza, is the journey of systems thinking and design. And through that journey, you have also outlined that although you don't have your finished product as yet, you develop skill sets which in itself, you'll develop components which will have value on their own. So you can generate other kinds of, sub businesses from this idea. And it's an important thing that people who are innovative, entrepreneurs, they look at that design and systems thinking approach, because you may reach or aim for the stars and you may reach the moon, as the saying goes as well.
Just before he replies, I just want to conscientize that we have almost 2-3 minutes to finishing our conversations. Maybe that's why I said we really need to get Dr. Reza back.
So,
yes,
also, go ahead, Doc.
I was saying with pleasure. I'll come back anytime.
Beautiful.
Okay, I want to then, unfortunately, end our show for today. We just touched on a few very interesting areas of discussion, and I would hope that our viewers, listeners can see the value of the kinds of things we have been discussing. To follow Dr. Reza further, you can Google him and you'll find quite easily information about himself and his organizations, not necessarily the aesthetic medicine, but also with regards to Pegasus Aerospace. We will try and get him back and then delve a bit deeper into the plane itself and be able to show our viewers how the plane actually looks. We just need to set that up so we can accommodate it with our virtual studios. But also in terms of our own platform, that's COMETSA Global Online Channels. You can Google us, COMETSA, COMETSA, Global Online Channels, and you'll find that our platform has, as the days go by, we seem to reach new areas of delivering our content, which is not limited to our show, but we've got several shows and several areas of focus, but the common theme is to share skills, knowledge, and to uplift the viewers and listeners that we have. You want to say something as well, Sam?
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm the Dr. Reza's website is at the PegasusUA.com, right?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, cool. I just want to put it in the chat here for those who want to check it.
Thank you once again. Thank you once again to Dr. Reza. It's really was a pleasure, and I, for one, got quite a few, gems, as they would say, from your journey. I know you shared just a little bit, and we will definitely invite you back into the show so we can share more of those inspiring stories and journeys with the viewers and listeners. And thank you as well to our listeners and viewers out there. And you can catch our show.
It's been quite nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. We have to have you back. Take care. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Sure.